Call to order the City Council work session for the City of East Grand Forks of June 25th. Would City Clerk please call roll?
Mayor Seagander? Mayor Seagander?
Here.
Council President Marbles?
Here.
Council Vice President Tim Riefel?
Here.
Councilmember Clarence Hutter?
Here.
Ben Paczynski?
Here.
Dale Helms?
Here.
Brian Larson?
Here.
Karen Peterson?
Here.
Does determine a quorum. Number one, request for a resolution authorizing the sale of property. Mr. Galstad.
Thank you. This came out of a title opinion from Stephen Larson from the city of Crookston. Essentially, it's just ratifying a sale that of all of the lots that we had to Western Gamble. I don't believe it's necessary, but rather than arguing about it or getting into a big discussion because he had a title opinion that said the city needed to have a resolution, I'm just putting it forward. Essentially what it's coming from is our city charter says that you need to have a resolution to sell property. This is property that the city actually had a resolution saying that we're buying it, we're platting it, we're selling it, and then gave the EDA the authority to sell it. I don't have a copy of all of that in my file at this point in time, so rather than going back and searching for it, he drafted this resolution up, just ratifying that sale. And we're just asking for the city council to sign off on that at the next city council meeting, and then I'll provide it to him for the sale of the property, so it doesn't hold things up for Mr. Polkerbeck.
Anybody have any questions? Mr. Larson.
Yeah, thank you. For those of us not on the council when this happened, could you just give us a quick background on where these parcels are and who or what Western Gamble is?
Sure. Well, essentially what ended up happening is that the city was reconstructing 17th Street over there. We wanted to get an easement from the Stokes. The Stokes family owned all the parcel that is now McBroder Edition, plus right up to 17th Street. They didn't want to give us an easement. They rather sell us the property that was on the, we'll just say the eastern side of the coulee that runs through there. So they sold that property to us. Then what we ended up doing was, not only was it for reconstruction, once we did that, we replatted as the city as the Coulee View Edition. And then actually replatted it again, but for the sale of those lots. And then the city gave the authority to the EDA to sell the lots.
Okay.
And that was one of the, and I believe it's probably the townhomes that Dave Robertson, Western Gamble built on those lots. It's one of those.
That's helpful. Thank you.
You bet.
Anybody else have a question? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Number two, request to accept donation for playground at Griggs Park Trailhead. Mr. King.
Thank you, Council President, City Council, Mayor. In July of 2023, the city expressed interest in allowing Becca Walk to start fundraising for a playset at the Griggs Park Trailhead facility. Becca, who operates a daycare nearby, frequently visits the trailhead with her daycare children, and together with the Home Run Club, Becca has raised $1,700 for a new playset. Currently, no specific fundraising goals have been set. No funds from the Parks and Rec budget have been allocated for the construction of a new playground set. And there's no budget impact for 2024. An estimated cost to build a play set in that area would be about $35,000. Recommendation would be to accept the donation of $1,007 into the Parks Donation Fund earmarked for a new play set, and then come forward at a later time with a more defined plan of what our fundraising goal should be and what type of equipment we should put there.
Anybody have any questions on that? I see none, sir. Appreciate it. Number 3, consider update to site use agreement with Lutheran Social Services. Mr. King.
Thank you again, Council President, City Council, and Mayor. During the 2024 budgeting process, the city asked staff to look at ways to save money, specifically at the senior center, particularly in the commercial kitchen. We've been working pretty closely with Lutheran Social Services to come up with an agreement, and we looked at all kinds of different avenues. We looked at different ways of staffing. I feel like we pretty much exhausted just about every opportunity that we had that they were willing to offer. Finally came down to coming up with rent. Went through a small negotiation process, and they came up with an agreement where they'd be willing to pay the city $315 per month for the rental of the commercial kitchen. The rent, how we came up with that number, how I guess the number was figured out by the amount of meals that were served there. In 2023, we served 15,177 meals. This agreement does have a provision where either party can exit the agreement within 60 days of a written notice. It's almost exactly the same as our current agreement that we have with them, with the addition of the $315 rental fee. Since that time, LSS has also installed a new range. They paid for the range. They paid for the installation of the range. Budget impact in 2024 is, if we sign this agreement, we get an additional $1,890, and in 2025, an additional $3,780. Recommendation would be to accept the updated facility use agreement.
Anybody have any questions? Mr. Helms.
Thank you, Jeremy. $315 is better than what we've been getting, definitely. Would that income go into the senior center fund then, or will that just go into a general fund, or where would that?
I believe that would just go into the general operating budget.
Yes.
So in a roundabout way, it would make its way back to the senior center.
Senior center rent.
Okay.
There is an account called Senior Center Rent, and we collect rent from other parties that rent Senior Center.
Okay.
So it will go in that fund.
Okay. So it would be maybe available down the road if they wanted to do a party or something. I mean, is what I was getting at, I guess, if they had them funds there. That's what I was kind of wondering about.
Yeah, it would go right back into the next year's
All
operating
right.
budget.
Okay. Good enough. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? Ben.
Thank you, Mr. President. Jeremy, does this $315 cover the cost of utilities, like just to use?
Yes, it would cover that's about, the utility budget is around $15,000 for the senior center per year. And that's for all the building, for the whole building. Without looking at the numbers too closely, I feel like this would cover the cost of the utilities for the commercial kitchen.
Right, for whatever they're using it
Yes.
for? Okay, and then just like for my knowledge, the meals that they deliver, are those free for residents, or do the residents have to pay for them? Is LSS making money off of these meals? That's my question.
LSS is a nonprofit, and they are making money off the meals. They sell anyone who's over the age of 55 can get the meal for $5, or if you're low income, then they'll never turn anyone away who can't eat. So they are turning, I don't want to say they're turning a profit, but they are making some income off the meals, and then using that money to fund the program.
Sure. All right, that's the only question I have.
If you're under 55 and you want to go get a meal, specifically the Chicken a la King is very good there. It's $10. So.
Anybody else have any questions? I see none. Thank you, sir. Move on to number 4. Consider upgrade to HVAC system.
All right, thank you again. Since 2022, we've been talking about upgrading the HVAC system at the senior center. Currently, there are 2 residential furnaces installed after the flood that are twinned together to provide heating and cooling for both the kitchen and the main gathering area. These 2 have split-cooled condensing units on the rooftop. The kitchen ductwork is served by the same 2 furnaces. The combined ductwork for both the furnace and the main area were originally designed for larger equipment. So what happens with the undersized equipment is they get minimal airflow through the registers in the kitchen. At times, the airflow is almost non-existent. Some of the other issues with that system are one of the rooftop units is a faulty compressor. HVAC system was not designed to supply fresh air into the building, so it has a ventilation system that pulls air out of the building but doesn't bring any fresh air back into it. The kitchen is consistently uncomfortably warm. It lacks its own thermostat, so it doesn't have its own temperature control area there. The kitchen does not have any makeup air coming in, so again, the pressures inside the kitchen are all off. Basically what the staff does now to cool the kitchen is we have a screen door installed on there and a box fan to try get the exhausted air out of there. And kind of bring this forward now because some of the comments that we've talked about in the past when we were looking at updating the system were, we weren't sure about our partnership with LSS, what that was going to look like. We weren't sure what we were going to do with the building at that time. Now I feel like we have answers to those questions, so I thought it would be a good time to bring up the HVAC system. We do have $120,000 budgeted in 2024 to replace that system. The number coming in, the number for 2025 would be a little bit higher. We do have the funds available if we wanted to. If we decided at this time that we wanted to make that upgrade, we do have the funds available in the building maintenance fund, and we could do it for $148,500 this year, opposed to $157,500 in 2025. My original recommendation would be to move the project into 2025. After a little bit of further investigation, finding out that we did have the funds available for 2024, that is another option.
Anybody have any questions? Mayor?
I know we have had this conversation before a month or two ago, and I would want to have some assurance that from an engineering standpoint, we really have come up with the most cost-efficient solution to accomplish our makeup air and cooling that kitchen. Have we found the most cost-effective way of accomplishing that and still meeting the criteria of a commercial kitchen? And if you have answered that question, maybe tell me how you feel good inside that, yep, I did the due diligence, I looked at these other alternatives, and anything else would either not do the job or cost more. Would you bring us back around there one time, please?
Yep. The couple options, we could try to, it's residential furnaces and rooftop units or condensers that are there now. It's not the only probably building in town that has residential rooftops and furnaces running it. I think the difference here is that it was originally designed as a grocery store, and then adding the commercial kitchen into it wasn't properly designed from the beginning. I've talked with other HVAC companies, and I feel that everyone will assure you that they can come up with the proper solution. This is a Sourcewell contracted bid, so this is the competitive nature of this bid is already included in it. Johnson is the one that has the service contract for the city, so I feel comfortable working with them. I've had lots of interactions with Johnson. Johnson Controls, that is. I feel like if we were to go down I feel that this is properly engineered. If we were to go down a different direction that some of the other contractors are looking at, I don't feel that we would get the same result in the end. The lifespan of this system on a commercial building is between 20 to 25 years. I feel that this is the right direction to go. Not sure if I answered your question there correctly, but...
It sounds like you have been in conversation with contractors who say they could engineer a different way of doing it, but you're not convinced that it would accomplish our objectives. It would be lower priced, but wouldn't accomplish our objectives.
Right.
Anybody else have any questions? Mr. Larson?
Jeremy, and maybe you don't know this now, but are we sure that we have the electrical service in place in the building to support the commercial unit?
Yes. Yep. Yep, sounds like everything's right there.
Anybody else have anything? So you're saying there's 120 budgeted this year for it,
Correct.
and the additional would come from the,
And there is additional money to cover the 148.5 if we wanted to do that. And then Johnson told me that they could have the project completed before the heating season would start.
even $9,000.
Right. If we're going to do it in which I think we should, I think it would be a wise decision to do it now. And I could have the contract written up and ready to go by the next council meeting
Anybody else?
with the updated numbers.
Thank you. We entertained an offer to purchase this building from an individual. I think if we would have sold that building and put this money in there, you would have had close to $400,000 to put into renovating Nash Park, had we needed to do that, or some other building in town to accommodate the senior citizen center and get rid of one of these buildings. I think that's the option that we should have went with rather than sticking it all into this old building again.
Anybody else have anything? Mr. Riedel.
To counter that offer was ridiculously low for our property. I think if he came back and offered us maybe double that, we might consider it. But at that point, it was way too low. I'm not going to give somebody a steal on our property when we shouldn't.
Mr. Bitter.
Come back at you again. So have we talked to him? Is he interested in giving us a counteroffer?
Based on the discussion we had in the closed session, the direction was to indicate to the interested party that the offer he would need to make to us should be at a dollar amount that is enough to replace our existing senior center with a like or similar building somewhere else in town. Didn't get specific about a dollar amount for that, but that was the direction that I was given. Having said that to him, he said that he didn't feel at this time that he would come back with a counteroffer. He did indicate that if at any time the city council is interested in entertaining offers on the building, that we should tell him that he'd be interested in it at any point in the future. We also had a discussion about if there were any other sites around town that he may be interested in pursuing for his business plan, and he didn't seem to be interested in that. He was specifically looking at that location and that part of town to be able to expand or to start a business. So without specifics of exact dollar amounts, he at that time said he didn't feel he would bring a counteroffer back.
With those parameters, I wouldn't have either. If we would have just went to him and said that his offer is too low, he needs to counteroffer to us, I'm sure he would have came back with something a little bit more reasonable, but is what it is.
Mayor, do you have some?
I know also from previous conversations when we've discussed the future of the senior center, the idea would be to have another facility ready to go before we would sell the current one. And the new facility ready to go would be built and or renovated to the preference of our senior citizens. Come on, this is a good faith cooperative project that we have with them, and we would want to always go forward to their preference. Again, we don't have to go off on too many tangents to say these are pillars of our community. Most of them have been here a very long time. They've paid a ton of tax, raised their kids, been involved in all of our programs. We're going to treat them with respect and dignity as we go to this time of life and consider how do we serve them. So I think it's reasonable, this conversation we're having about, are we going to put this thing to that building? Because what if the senior citizens come back and say, you know what, we think there would be a better place. We think we could find a location a little easier to get at, maybe better parking, which I can't imagine. This one's pretty easy to get at and pretty good parking. But maybe cooperatively we would come up with an alternative that they would say, yeah, we love it. We want this as an alternative. and then having just put in this amount of money into this building would look kind of silly. But if we're not going down that road, and if they really are happy there, and we really don't anticipate moving on from that space, then this would be the right thing to do.
One other thing to consider is that system still, one way or the other, we're going to have to do something with it. You know, one way or the other in the next couple years, we'll have to start putting money towards getting some of that stuff upgraded. Even if we keep it the same way, it's still going to be expensive. So I think if we do it this way now with a little bit of cost savings, I think it'll pay off in the long run.
All right, anybody else have any questions?
Yep, I'll have it ready.
Right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Number 5, request to reclassify the senior center coordinator position.
Thank you again. Sticking with the theme of the senior center here. One area that the city highlighted during the 2024 budget talks was looking at the operating budget at the senior center. Specifically, we were talking about the senior center coordinator position, looking for opportunities for cost savings there. The position just naturally was up for a position analysis this year, as all non-union positions within the city are going through. During that ongoing maintenance review conducted by the ADJOURN and Associates company, they decided to reclassify the position from a 15 to a 12. This reclassification was based on the fact that as we went through the job description, some of the education experience, decreased levels of problem solving, decision making, and impact were changed in that job description. When that happens, ADJOURN and Associates gave us some guidance on how they typically see other communities handle situations like this. Typically what they do is they freeze the position's wages. What they see happen is the position's wages are frozen with no cost of living increase. And that also aligns with our personal policy manual we use at the city here. And so a budget impact for the budget impact for the current grade is right now is at a 15 at a step 8, which is about $77,708. For next year, if we were to freeze that position, we would see a cost savings of $4,720, and then the cost savings will escalate year after year with that. Recommendation would be to freeze the senior center position wages at the current wage of $77,708, following the ADJOURN and Associates and City Policy Manual.
Anybody have any questions? Mr. Helms.
So you want to freeze the wages and you want to change the classification down to a 12?
Yep, we'll freeze it right now. Currently that position is at a grade 15, step 8, and we'll freeze it at that. And that position will stay at that wage until it catches up with the grade plan, which if you look in the graph doesn't happen until 2029. So that employee would stay at that same wage. If that employee left in 3 years, and then the next employee would come in, they would start at a grade 12, step 1. So that would be reclassified at that time.
Save anything on this at this point in time, right?
We would, because that position is due a step increase and a COLA at the end of this year. And so we would save that step increase and the COLA, the cost of the COLA. And then going forward, year after year up until then, we would save those step increases and COLAs. Correct. She's just, yep, it'll just stay. But there will be no step increases or cost of living.
Step increase this year on COLA?
The step increase this year was $4,700.
Anybody else have any questions? I see none, sir. Okay, appreciate it.
Thank you.
entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move.
Moved by Helms,
Second.
second by Larson. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried, means adjourned.